now happy to come to the next point of our agenda, and I think it fits perfectly to previous discussions because I'm happy to have Cameron Goldie-Scott with us, who is the CEO and co-founder of Musoni Systems in the Netherlands. It's a company that really helps organizations to leverage and test the latest technologies, he and his organization is active in the microfinance industry around the world, helping organizations to go mobile, paperless, data-driven, so a lot of topics that were raised before. And with more than 14 years of experience, I think he can bring a lot of good examples from experiences and projects in the IT world, with countries like Kenya, Myanmar, where he used to live, and they have regional offices and probably other places. So Cameron, thanks to have you with us, and the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Florian. And can I just confirm that you can both see here me and also see the screen at the moment?
Yes, very well.
Great. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Cameron. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Musoni. It's a pleasure to be here on the second day of the Global Microfinance Forum, and thank you to Uniglobal for hosting. And thank you, Florian, for the excellent sharing yesterday and for doing all of the work sharing today as well. I think everyone here knows Musoni a little bit, so I won't spend too much time on the introduction. Instead, in this presentation, I'd like to look at what it takes for an MFI to digitalize their operations. I'll look at why it's necessary, how an MFI can put together their own digitalization strategy, and also how Musoni can support the process. And I'll use a few case study examples along the way. Just a brief introduction. For those who don't know, Musoni is the leading digitalization partner for microfinance institutions around the world. We were founded 8 years ago and provide a multi-award winning cloud banking platform alongside a whole variety of digitalization tools to any organization looking to grow their client numbers or improve their efficiency through technology. We're a Dutch company and we have offices in the Netherlands, Kenya, and Myanmar. And previously, we set up our own MFI in Kenya before spinning off and becoming a technology provider. In terms of our footprint, we've grown a lot in the last 8 years. We now are proud to support 70 different organizations across 18 different countries and 4 continents, including some of the largest microfinance networks in the world, such as Vision Fund Network, where we support 3 of their organizations and soon to be 4 next month, and a new continent next month, actually. Hope International, where we support 2 organizations, and Microloan Foundation, where we support 3 as well. And we support a whole variety of different financial organizations, ranging from small startups with just a few hundred or thousand customers to much larger organizations with portfolios of over 100 million and 400,000 end customers or so. But enough about Musoni. Today, I'd like to talk about why digitalization is important. And there are many reasons, ranging from improving efficiency or increasing revenue, or keeping up with changing customer expectations and responding to market competition. It's a shame that Jessica wasn't able to join the previous presentation, because a lot of the data I want to show you in this slide actually comes from a survey that was managed by Jessica as part of the, effectively the Belgium investment company for developing countries, BIO, carried out a really good case study and survey across all of their different portfolio organizations to assess their readiness for digitalization. And the results are really interesting, and I'll showcase them over the course of this presentation. In essence, COVID-19, and in particular the social distancing requirements that were enforced because of COVID-19, only made digitalization in microfinance more urgent. And we can see in this top right graphic, with MFIs ranking their strategic priorities, being digital effectively meant that you're able to continue taking recoveries, continue communicating with customers, and originating new loans. If you were not digital, all of the previously straightforward daily operational tasks became very challenging. And therefore, it makes sense that when MFIs were asked to rank their priorities, digitalization and innovation came top, ahead of market expansion or even increasing customer centricity. However, even though it was the #1 priority, in spite of this, very few MFIs actually managed to digitalize. And in the second graph, we can clearly see that banks, not MFIs, are the real champions of digitalization. From mobile wallets to digital loans, commercial banks are ahead of microfinance. They lead on agency banking and also customer communication channels. And one of the main reasons for this divide between commercial banks and MFIs becomes apparent from the challenges that financial institutions report back in relation to digitalization. And this data is still coming from the BIO survey, and you can see the 4 different main challenges that MFIs highlighted. And the main challenge was a digitalization knowledge gap, effectively a lack of skilled staff internally to manage the challenges of digitalization. 59% of organizations also highlighted the weakness of their IT system as a major challenge, and we'll focus a little bit more on that later on in this presentation. And almost half of the organizations struggled with a lack of funding for digitalization projects, and a similar number faced regulatory challenges as well. As a result, for many MFIs, their digital products and channels are still not very developed. MFIs are held back by legacy IT systems and a lack of expertise, and they generally have insufficient funding to address either of these issues. At Musoni, we try and make it easier for MFIs to overcome some of these challenges, and I'll start showing how we do that over the next few slides. Our recommended starting point for any organization looking to digitalize is to first put together a digitalization strategy. We see technology as nothing more than the tool that an organization would use once they have the right foundations and strategy in place. And any good strategy starts off with a digitalization readiness review. This should look at all the key factors to consider when digitalizing, including organizational readiness, country readiness, customer readiness, tech readiness, and then all of these things come together to produce your digitalization strategy. Our team, we have a digitalization team, and our team can provide a free digitalization readiness review for your organization. But to be honest, you're actually able to do this yourself. And to make it easier, I wanted to share a bit more on the approach that our team would normally take so that you can take it away and carry it out internally. Our starting point is always to assess what digitalization options there are in your country. For example, in Kenya, an organization is likely to integrate with M-Pesa for mobile payments, Metropole for credit scoring, and IPRS for client identifier validation. Nigeria is a bit different, it's more bank focused, so the integrations would be more likely to be with NIBS and InterSwitch to integrate with the banking network. While in Myanmar, organizations may focus on the credit bureau, MCIX, or Mojaloop, the payment switch. The options available to any organization also depend on the levels of smartphone ownership and internet connectivity, as well as how comfortable the end customers are with mobile wallets. And in most of the countries where Musoni operates, there are lots and lots of different options, lots of numerous possibilities. And this puts any MFI in a strong place to start their digitalization journey. In our experience, just building on that point, it's rare that country readiness is going to hold an organization back, but it does obviously steer the direction that they might choose to take. How about end customers? Well, we will always go and ask the organization how they currently interact with their end customers. And in most cases, they still use a group meeting methodology, and clients are used to working with their loan officer for any requests like loan applications or whenever they have a challenge. But this is changing. Customer familiarity with digital channels is increasing all around the world. And we also see more and more mobile banking apps aimed at end customers. And one excellent mobile banking app that I recommend you take a look at is called Mobi4Me. It's already been integrated with the Musoni core banking system. And I believe that France Barrel, the CEO of Mobi4Me, is also one of the attendees of this conference. So you should be able to reach out to her on the Swap Card app if you have any questions. But yeah, we see more mobile banking apps. We see USSD menus for locations for MFIs where their customers are in offline areas or areas with limited connectivity. And we see more websites offering self-registration and onboarding options as well. And another one that I'll mention later is called MoneyPhone, which specializes in self-registration. So whenever we approach an MFI, we recommend that they ask their customers how many of them are using mobile wallets already, what do they use them for, and if their customers are already working with other banks or financial institutions, how are they used to interacting with some of the competition? Because I'm sure we can all learn something from that. Moving on, the most important thing we think is organizational readiness. If we cast our minds back to the BIO survey, HR and a lack of sufficient expertise was the #1 reason that MFIs cited for a lack of digitalization. And time again, we see that the main difference between successful MFIs like Vision Fund in Myanmar, CCT in the Philippines, Standard Life in Nigeria, Agora in Zambia, and many others using Musoni has been the strength of their senior management team and their shared commitment to digitalization across the leadership. The reason for this is that, as we know, digitalization results in major changes to business, whether that's in operations, reporting, or in finance. And people, however well-intentioned it is, people generally don't like change. And that's why it's key for every MFI to have strong leaders who are committed to digitalization and who can help the entire organization from the top to the bottom to accept and buy into the changes. I'm sorry, but digitalization is not something that comes cheaply. I don't think that Musoni is expensive, but investing in technology, training, and change management costs money, and it takes time, and it may be years before the investments really start to pay off. And MFIs need to be aware of this and assign sufficient resources to ongoing digitalization from the start. You'd be amazed at how many MFIs that we speak to do not have any digitalization budget in place. Finally, in terms of putting together a digitalization readiness review, your technology readiness. The most important thing to look at here is how easy is it for you to connect your existing core banking system to other internal systems, such as accounting or reporting tools, or third-party solutions like credit reference bureaus or mobile payment channels. We firmly believe at Musoni that the future of digitalization is going to be in multiple different solutions working seamlessly together. And therefore, if your core banking system does not make it easy for you to integrate, it's going to be an uphill journey from the start. Feedback from the survey, the bio survey of microfinance institutions, showed some of the challenges, the tech challenges that the industry is facing. More than a third of financial institutions operate with most or all of their IT systems separated, and only 29% have managed to integrate them all. That's the top graph for internal connectedness there. Moving to the bottom graph, when connecting to third-party systems, the situation is only slightly better. 13% of MFIs cannot connect their core banking system to any third-party system, and for another 46%, integrations require major or medium-sized investments. Only 40% of financial institutions have integration-ready systems like Musoni in place. So conducting a readiness review is what we see as the first stage in putting together any digitalization strategy. And if we take a step back, how ready are other organizations around the world? Well, our last reference to the Bio-Digitalization survey shows us that, strikingly, not many institutions have the basic enablers for digitalization in place. While almost all have a supportive management team, 22% do not have a dedicated staff or team, and 33% do not have a dedicated budget, even though most organizations do see the need for a budget. Most noteworthy, though, is that while over the last 3 or 4 years, while everyone has rushed to introduce elements of digital innovation, not everyone has a clear idea of where they're headed. 40% of the respondents do not have a digitalization strategy in place. And that's what we're trying to help with this particular presentation. There's no better time to start than today. So where does Musoni fit in? We have over a decade of experience helping MFIs to digitalize. And while every journey is different, there are many similarities between them. And here you can see what we see as the standard journey or blueprint for digitalization that we help MFIs to go through. We believe that with our solutions, any MFI can go digital in 12 to 18 months. And we've got many case studies where we can show this. Unsurprisingly, everything starts off with your core banking system. It's the beating heart of your company's technology, and the top systems make it easy for you to innovate in the market and are therefore key to ongoing digitalization. Changing your core banking system, though, can be a daunting, difficult exercise. So on this slide, I'd like to share what we see as the top 4 criteria that any MFI should look for when choosing their digitalization partner. The first is strategic fit. Does the vendor's model and direction also align with your new digitalization strategy that hopefully you've just put together? The second is trust. Do I trust the vendor to help me achieve my strategy? And it's worth chatting with other customers and choosing a vendor who has experience in the market where you currently operate. Next is price. Can I afford it? And does the pricing model work for me? For example, Musoni is licensed on a SaaS pricing model, which means our fees are linked to the size of the MFI. And finally, what makes the vendor unique? Every vendor is different, and at Musoni, we don't want to just be another vendor. We try and take a personal, hands-on approach and really aim to be a long-term digitalization partner rather than a vendor. So once you have the right core banking system in place, only then is it easier to take the next steps and layer additional digitalization options or solutions on top of your platform. And today I'm just going to focus on launching a digital field application, which is also provided by Musoni. And one organization that did this exceptionally well was Vision Fund in Myanmar, serving about 300,000 end customers. After identifying that launching a DFA, a digital field application, was a core part of their strategy, they started testing the Musoni version in December 2019, and they launched a pilot with one branch at the start of 2020. Within just 8 weeks, so very rapidly, they'd rolled out the DFA to the whole organization. And to ensure success, they implemented continuous surveys and feedback circles from the end users and their own internal digitalization team. Where necessary, they carried out refresher training for their loan officers to make sure they were comfortable with the solution. And they also worked with Musoni to identify new features that they wanted to see. So this was a huge project across about 65 different branches, about 1,000 loan officers moving from paper to a digital field application. And it was only possible due to the commitment and strength of the senior management team responsible for the actual digitalization within the organization. They had a whole separate team in place. Another key part of most organizations' strategy is leveraging the increased mobile phone ownership of the customers. And with Musoni, we make this easy. Our SMS module is built into the platform, and it works across all the countries where we operate, across all networks, and can be used to improve the communication that you have, or an organization has, with their end customers. We've also helped our MFIs to integrate with multiple mobile money transfer services around the world. In Kenya, we've integrated with M-Pesa. In Uganda, we work with a switch to accept payments from all networks. In Zimbabwe, it's EcoCash. In Myanmar, we have MFIs accepting payments from Wave Money, Ongo, and MPT, and we're now integrating with Mojaloop, the new payment switch. And in the Philippines, we're exploring integration with GCash as well. So previously, I said that the future of digitalization is going to be with multiple different solutions working seamlessly together. Musoni is it's built on an open API platform. And what this means is it makes it very fast and straightforward for any third party to build or integrate their own solution on top of Musoni. And in recognition of this, we're very proud that recently Musoni was actually added to the CGAP Open API dashboard. Over the last 5 years or so, we've seen MFIs integrate a whole variety of different solutions on top of Musoni, whether it's mobile payment channels, credit reference bureaus, client apps. All of that's done very well. But actually, in the last year, we're taking a more direct approach, what we call our platform approach. And we've started to identify complementary third-party solutions already in the market and work with their teams to integrate them directly into Musoni, even before an MFI necessarily has approached us and asked for it. A few of the examples are shown below. So I mentioned Mobi for Me, the client mobile banking app earlier. Bank BI produced additional business intelligence and financial regulatory reporting for the MFIs. Juakali are an advanced workflow management tool and a business process orchestrator. And MoneyPhone help MFIs to self-register or self-onboard their customers. In all of these examples, the third-party company has already integrated their solution into our sandbox environment. And our goal is to make it super straightforward for an MFI using Musoni to look at an ecosystem of different complementary solutions where the integration has already been done, and effectively it's a click and go approach. So I'll start wrapping up now, but to summarize, at Musoni, we help MFIs to achieve their digitalization strategy quickly and affordably. It's still key for every organization to have their digitalization strategy in place, but at least with us, the technology piece of the puzzle is hopefully already taken care of. And to show that it is really possible to digitalize in under 12 months, I wanted to showcase 2 case studies, one in Nigeria and one in Myanmar. The first is Standard Life, serving about 60,000 end customers in Nigeria. They completed their Musoni implementation in July last year, and within 6 weeks, they had launched a digital field application to 200 loan officers, which actually was the fastest launch of the DFA that we've ever seen across the board. It was very impressive. They've also started using Musoni to automate their loan decisions, the SMS module to improve communication with their customers, and they've integrated a data warehouse with Musoni using our API layer. Obviously, the last 12 months with COVID have not been easy for any organization, but it's been great to see that through technology, or partly through technology, Standard Life have been able to grow their portfolio by an impressive 40%, while also maintaining a high portfolio quality. And I'll just finish now with Proximity Finance in Myanmar. Proximity started using Musoni in March 2020, just as the COVID-19 restrictions came in place across all of the country. In the 9 months since going live, with a full lockdown in Myanmar and all of the Proximity team working from home, they were still able to disperse over 180,000 loans. Client numbers increased by 80,000, and their loan portfolio also grew by 40%, demonstrating the benefits of having a cloud-based system. Proximity also managed to digitalize their operations, and over the course of 2020, they automated their loan decisions by using the Musoni inbuilt loan appraisal checks. They launched the digital field application to 400 loan officers, integrated with MCIX, the Myanmar Credit Bureau, and are now running a pilot with Ongo to digitalize their cash repayments. So a full digitalization in the middle of COVID in under 12 months. We've got many other examples that we can share. So if anyone is interested, do come and have a chat with either myself or Melissa, our head of Africa, in our virtual booth, or send us a direct message, and we'd love to hear from you and just have a conversation. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if there's any questions, but I'll hand back over to you, Florian.
Thanks a lot, Cameron. I think that was a quite interesting overview about your activities, and especially these case studies show that digital transformation is possible also in difficult times. I think there are no actual urgent questions now, but I think the colleagues will have the chance to reach out to you afterwards. I would have a question in particular looking back at the last 12 months and the situation with COVID. Because some projects were started before, but I was just curious, which are the most urgent requests you have received over the last 12 months and where companies thought they must transform on a very short notice, and also giving us an indication where the industry are focusing in the next 12 months, because what they are starting now is also a message about where the focus points will be in the near future.
Yeah, a very good question. Thank you, Florian. I think it comes into two areas. I mean, there was the direct challenge caused by COVID around loan moratoriums that we heard a lot about yesterday, and the MFIs using Musoni were no exception. We had to do a lot of work adding new kind of moratorium functionality into the system, because every country generally had a different approach to how they wanted to do a moratorium, and these were normally mandated by a central bank. So the organizations didn't have that much of a choice, which meant we already had rescheduling in Musoni, but we just had to flesh that out with about 5 or 6 other use cases around it. And I think we helped organizations to reschedule well over 1.5 million loans or so over the period, which took up a lot of time and resources. But the other thing we saw was a real drive towards organizations adopting the digital field application. A lot of the time, people had adopted Musoni and continued using paperwork for all of their field operations. And the moment they had to shut their branches or they couldn't go out into the field anymore, they kind of came back to us and were like, actually, that solution that you already have and is already integrated and doesn't cost anything more. We don't charge extra for the DFA. Can we start using it, please? So we saw a huge uptake of the DFA, just driven by the circumstances, which all makes logical sense. And what's been quite nice to see is that that's encouraged organizations to think a little bit more about digitalization. And they've seen that they can actually do it. And they've started that journey now. And now that, I mean, we're not out of COVID, but now that everyone has got kind of been so embedded in it that people are starting to think, how do we continue operations even in spite of this situation? We're now starting to see people and organizations continue that digitalization journey.
Great. Thank you, Cameron. I think I'm afraid you will still have a lot to do in the near future, so
Yeah,
times won't get boring for you, I assume. Thank you for.
okay. It's all part of the fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you.